Greetings, dear friends and foes. Once again, I'm here with you, ready to dissect the grand diplomatic scandal which I foretold, the diplomatic catastrophe in the Oval Office of the White House. I'll keep it brief. After all, I am expected at the table. First of all, my dearest mate, Trump is breaking down socialism. Just as a pendulum swings back and forth, this one is making its final arc. The socialist era was mad, pointless and vulgar. Let the past die. Like me, Trump is anti-Soviet. I stand for the free market, open competition, capitalism, and undoubtedly culture. The culture of speech and of appearance. I told you 2 weeks ago on my live stream. I told Comrade Zelenskyy to change his damn clothes. Play the video right now. And the very first thing he was told before the Oval Office, look at you, you're all dressed up today. My Ukrainian comrades, please tell Zelenskyy to change his damn clothes.
Wait, my second question for President Zelenskyy, why don't you wear a suit? You're at the highest, why don't you wear a suit? You're at the highest level in this country's office and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting the dignity of this office.
He looks so cringe-worthy, a total embarrassment. It only discredits you. What a shame. You have peace treaties ahead. Just recently you saw Trump's representative in Munich. Well-groomed, tall, perfectly matched shirt, necktie and jacket, clean-shaven, and Zelenskyy is dressed like a battlefield commander. And those stupid beards. He and the other chap, Rahmani or what's his name? Never mind. These beards bear a resemblance with rebel commanders, and it only defames them, you see, because they look like a bunch of rogue chieftains. No need to blow a fuse now, I'm just stating facts, and I warned you. I don't know. First of all, what we witnessed was yet another eruption of despicable hoggery, pushiness, and something utterly inhonorable. As a historian, I can assure you, nothing like this has ever happened in the history of world diplomacy. Never before has someone that inferior been allowed to rise so high. Don't get pipped, but you can't prop up a comedian. He's a village idiot at the helm of a government. It's impossible. Scream all you like, but the results scream louder. That was my first point. Now the second. You know, as Chekhov said, it is impossible because it can never be true. Certain things are simply unacceptable. No one, under any circumstances, while being entirely dependent on those supplying their money and weapons, when hundreds of thousands, even millions of lives at stake, not just Ukrainians, but Russians and Europeans as well, should behave with such aggression and zealotry. Zelenskyy is full of seething pus. And take note, many of my subscribers have pointed it out, how strikingly his behavior mirrors that of so many Ukrainian YouTubers. Swinish, bumptious, and utterly devoid of culture, significance, or worth. Birds of a feather flock together. Next, Zelensky's one and only purpose for being there was to sign, just scratch a doodle, an agreement that was already confirmed. The deal was done, Dixie. In truth, he didn't even need to show up. It was Zelensky himself who begged Trump's administration for a meeting, desperate to hype himself up. That document was meant to be signed by his own envoys, the very people he personally appointed for the task. But at the last moment, he insisted on doing it himself. Why? For one reason only: self-promotion, provocation, and keeping the warfare alive. For Zelensky, as he considers, ceasefire means new troubles, because the moment the guns fall silent, a full reassessment of the aid sent will begin, along with an investigation into his own dealings. And why was Ukraine caught completely off guard when every intelligence agency in the world, along with analysts online, had warned them? Long story short, when it ends, he's in trouble. Which is why Zelensky doesn't want this warfare to end ever, and he's proven it through action. I repeat, this was meant to be signed without him. Everything was settled. When you meet with the president to sign an agreement, there is no room for haggling, let alone last-minute demands in front of the cameras. Never in history has anything like this happened. This isn't just incompetence or unprofessionalism. This is sabotage. Zelensky is a saboteur.
Зеленский занимается саботажем и самопиаром.
He's all about self-promotion, spoiled rotten by the leftists over the years. The Biden syndicate, alongside Kamala and the rest of the leftist crew, Macron and Scholz, they tolerated his every antic, and even among leftists, he was a pain in the backside. Do recall, or just search it online, how many times Zelensky backstabbed his NATO sponsors, how often he quarreled with leftists in France and Germany. Remember how he bombarded Biden with messages when he was mid-flight. Even in his perpetual sleepwalker state, Biden was livid. Their squabbles rarely made front-page news, slipping into the public eye only through their underlings. But still, these are facts. He is the first in world history to pull off such a stunt. But think about it. What an utterly uncultured brute Ukraine's representative, its national leader, turned out to be. There he was, sitting beside the most powerful man on earth, Trump, who, twice his age, was impeccably dressed in a sharp tailored suit, and then arrived this scruffy punk in a sports outfit. By my stars, the same punk who once banged on a supposed grand piano with his prick. Now here he is louting around with the vice president. And I remind you, Ukraine hasn't just been sucking up American money for the last 3 years, but for decades before that. Not a single cent repaid. And they won't. They won't even thank them. And here's what everyone seems to forget. Zelensky has committed both legal and political crime against the United States and personally against Trump, because he interfered in their elections. He and his envoys landed on American soil to prop up the criminal syndicate of the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris. Go find the videos. 3, 8, 10 years ago, I warned them. I told them to stop insulting Trump and the Republican Party. Yet those hard-worked Ukrainians kept yapping. Now they're getting their payback. And what mild payback it is. I'm far more vengeful than Trump. If I were him, I wouldn't have met that punk at all. I'd have ordered security to throw him out for all to see, not some quiet little get lost behind the curtains. No, I'd have had the guards haul him out right there, live and direct. Look at him, hunched over like some alleyway gopnik shivering in the cold. Oh, if only they had catapulted him out of the window in that exact pose. That would have been a sight. And the White House has rather large windows. Nothing would have stopped this midget from flying out. Don't get upset, because I'm telling the truth. I repeat, never in world history has there been a country that demanded others to secure its own borders. No other nation has ever claimed that the entire world owes them money, weapons, and whatnot. There are over 100 countries and nations across the globe, yet none, except for that particular Ukrainians, urge everyone not just to help defend their land, but to reconquer and rebuild it for them. In world history, this case stands alone. Never in world history has there been such a blatant display, not just of boorishness, but of open hostility during an official meeting, in front of the press, when all that was left to do was sign an already settled agreement. Some might squeak, oh, but what if it was a staged prank? No. As a director, I assure you, that was a live performance. Secondly, I know for a fact that press releases had already been drafted for the expected smooth outcome, celebrating a supposed moment of unity and harmony. The Americans planned ahead even while dealing with maybe not the brightest partners, but certainly not suicidal ones, and yet Zelly's pratfall sent shivers down their spines. I'd like to remind you, this wasn't Zelenskyy's first act of treachery, nor his first time being a felonious swine. Back in December of 2019, a peace agreement was set to be signed at the Paris summit. Had that deal gone through, today's conflict wouldn't have even started, and people would still be alive. That's an undeniable fact. Putin arrived expecting to sign an already agreed-upon document, confident it was a done deal, because that's how these things work. Not because he's Putin and they're all in Paris. When a deal is settled, you don't backtrack. However, Ukrainians twisted the wedge like a pack of twerps. It doesn't matter how bad or rapacious Putin is. I've been criticizing our regime and government for 25 years. No one caught on as fast as I did. Look at Boris Nemtsov. He lagged behind for years and even backed Putin during his campaign when I was already on the other side. However, I do admit, in December 2019, Ukrainians played filthy with the leader of a nuclear state. The nerve! What kind of fat-headed, caddish, suicidal louds do you have to be to pull a stunt like that? Next, I've been saying it for years. Stop poking the bear. It's a terrible idea. Yet Zelenskyy did poke, and it became terrible. You have to understand, responsibility is never one-sided. There are only degrees of guilt. Until you grasp this with cold clarity, without shrieking mottos, twitching and fidgeting, or spewing that special brew Ukrainian bile, you won't just fail to live in peace. You'll fail to live at all. Today, Trump is the only chance for the so-called Ukraine to survive and maybe to establish its statehood. Because today, Ukraine is nothing more than a project, a mere possibility of a state. For the last 10 or even 15 years, I've been saying it. Ukraine needs foreign tutelage, because they simply can't govern themselves. First, it was that dummy Yanukovych. How could you vote for him? This is madness. And now it's Zelenskyy, a third-rate comedian. And what was it? 70 or 73% who voted for him? You know what that means? The population isn't ready to run its own government. Shriek all you want. The facts speak louder. Now, at the tail end of Zelenskyy's term, we see the results. A total national failure. Hundreds of thousands dead, and this bussification in full swing. Such consequences stem from the actions of two. Both bear responsibility. Think, if one side is a predator, then the other must be a complete and utter idiot, a national traitor for provoking it. I said it in 2020, I said it in 2021, cease your threats and provocations. I repeated it again in the fall of 2021. But look up Zelenskyy's big talk online. He swore he'd reclaim the land by force. Did he? He lost even more. Where are your brains? Is there anything left up there besides yahooism, vulgarity and bottomless ingratitude? I remain in Moscow, in my country, facing all possible repressions here, because I stay true and honest. Do these hohols appreciate it? Not in the slightest. All I hear are insults from these caddish, ever-insatiable robs. But I know there are marvelous Ukrainians, decent, hard-working, worthy and grateful. But they are shackled by the weight of the hohols, who poison the lives of everyone around them. Ukrainians, Russians, Americans alike. I know their kind, living in America, yet spewing and lying how they hate it. Can you imagine the sheer lousiness of these cattle? Their ingratitude is downright criminal and suicidal. Until you realize it, there'll be no silver lining for you. I repeat, you can cry, wail and curse to the heavens. It will only get worse. Zelly should start thinking about time travel and how to apologize properly. Because he's about to give up even more ground, and it's entirely his fault. Next, Zelly was greatly encouraged by the Ukrainian population. They cheered his rudeness toward those who handed them billions, approved of his stinginess and incompetence, and welcomed his insolence toward a man older and far more powerful than he. This proves the problem of their nation is deep-rooted. They are boorish, arrogant, bumptious and greedy. They care only for themselves. It's a fact. Sure, every nation has its quirks, both positive and negative. Italians, the French, Russians, and the majority of Ukrainians, they are overflowing with the worst traits I just listed. Repeat, there are decent ones, and I always post on my social media, go subscribe to my Telegram by the way, letters from Ukrainians who are positively outraged by Zelenskyy's behavior and the arrogance of other hohols. It's a universal thing, every nation has its refined minds and its rabble, and the rabble is nothing but dead weight. Look, for years I've been advising you on how to do things right, teaching you about the economy, defense and what actually matters, but instead you fixated on exactly what I warned you against. Priestcraft, vyshivankas and other folkloric rubbish. Tell me, did those priests and vyshivankas do the trick? Be honest, did they help you in any way? Go ahead, ask your popes to smooth over their diplomatic disaster with Trump. Let them conjure up guns and millions of dollars. But they won't,
долларов.
because they can't.
А мы этого сделать не
Worse
можем.
yet,
Мы
they
можем
helped
просто
create
значит,
this mess.
Наоборот, то, что появилось.
Want to argue? By all means. But how do you plan to argue with me if you have no facts and no arguments?
И
Moving
еще у
on,
нас есть
about our
очень
misbegotten intelligentsia. Listen, I have every right to criticize them. I know this segment inside and out, being of noble stock myself, and I'm an author of a monograph, so I can judge the educated elite. But yokels from the comment section have no right to criticize the intelligentsia, they are inferior to them. So, about our half-baked intelligentsia, all these runaways and runabouts left and right alike. Can you hear Julio Iglesias crooning in the background? So romantic. Alright, let's deal with you first, then I'll get back to romancing. Right, the runaway intelligentsia. They're yelling about Trump, touching him like money isn't everything. Why all this money talk?
Вот деньги решают не все.
Splendid! Then go fight without it. Go get your guns for free, fill Ukraine's budget with, I don't know, the Holy Spirit, or shake your skinny little nerd legs and make it rain cash. Go ahead!
Беглый, интеллигент. Давайте выполняйте. Или
What else do we have? The US8 Syndicate, a criminal organization technically suspended but not entirely shut down. And then a whole slew of leftist media outlets that have collapsed in a heap. But why did they collapse if money doesn't matter? Can't they keep running without funding? Look at me, I have no private studios, nothing of the sort, just good champagne in my possession. I have my friends, my knowledge, and my champagne, that's all. I am the only one here with no sponsors from any quarter. And that makes me free, free to call things by their real names. So, whenever you hear, oh, that Trump, he only cares about money, well then, comrade Ukrainians, go charge ahead, free of charge. No cost is stopping you from fighting, and Trump says, please feel free to go, play that jackass if you must, just don't send me the bill. How did it start? First, these Ukrainians begged the Russians for cheap gas while hurling insults at them for being imperialists and the like. Then, once they had outdone themselves cursing the Russians, they moved on to cursing the Americans. For Ukrainians, it seems, every soul on earth is vile. Americans are bad, Hungarians are awful, Russians, well, even worse. And the Slovaks are absolute evil. The whole world is wicked. Can't you see how deranged and pathological this mindset is? Now look, I've spent years telling our local freaks in Russia to quit their mental theatrics with religion, drop the anti-American hysteria and screeching war cries. Because it's madness. What have I criticized? First, their propaganda pushing unity around our young, vigorous leader. Second, their jackbooted hostility towards America. Look what's happening in Ukraine now. They are parroting the same slogans, rally around the national leader, hate America together. A carbon copy, utter stupidity. So tell me, what exactly sets you apart from our lot? Your corruption is deeper, your dictatorship is harsher, because Ukrainian men can't leave their country freely. There is no way out. It's worse than what we have here. So what makes you so special? Maybe our brotherly nations should just merge, since they're so alike, and we've got more freedom on this side. What else do you want? I repeat, I am objective. I live under repression. I've opposed this regime for 25 years. Do understand, I was in a position before Nemtsov, but certain objective things exist, which I, as a scientist and an honest man, cannot ignore. And I'll say it again, the main problem, the historical problem of Ukraine is vulgarity. That's why it has no proper government, why it collapsed as a state, why millions fled. They are brusque, coarse, and greedy. This is the truth, because this is how you acted with Trump, like swine. After both the Russian and Soviet empires collapsed, what was your population? 50 or 52 million? You had immense industrial potential in all possible sectors. And now? And don't start it again. Yes, this man is a menace and he wants to take as much as possible, but why did you provoke and insult him? Why the persecution of those who simply speak a civic language? What for? Did you honestly think banning Russian was worth watching your cities burn? Speaking Russian is so much better than living in ruins. You'd better start using your brains. Your rudeness got you here. I say my countermeasures would have been different from his. In some areas I'd have been less severe, in others I'd have taken a different approach. But that's me. You have someone else to deal with. So you and your government must wake up, be rational, and understand exactly who your rivals are. Why can't you grasp that? Trump, Vance, Musk and the rest, they want to know where their money went, their own money, because they are the top taxpayers. Did they pay for you to tear down monuments to geniuses like Pushkin and Lermontov? Is that where their billions went? When Trump demands gratitude, remember, he's a billionaire, one of the wealthiest taxpayers in America. He's paying from his own pocket, not just the country's. And don't forget, no country has a personal budget. Never has, never will. That's taxpayers' money. It's citizens' money. Musk is the richest taxpayer. Why should he be funding Ukrainian corruptionists, funding Bussification and bankrolling the demolition of monuments? Use your Gulliver. That being said, Zelenskyy double-crossed Putin in 2019. He refused to sign an agreement that could have prevented this warfare. And he still doesn't want to stop it. That's why he turned against Trump. Besides, never in world history has there been such insane rudeness and cupidity at a diplomatic level. And for that, a significant portion of Ukrainians share the blame. Not all, of course. I don't paint everyone with the same brush. There are those who resent Zelenskyy's behavior, but the rest, the ones who cheered him on, who enjoyed his gluttonous arrogance and greed, they are to blame. If you insist on staying rude, which you can't afford given your resources, achievements and finances, it will only get worse. Look here, I'm in a restaurant. Now imagine they've been feeding me on the house for 3 years straight, even paying me to be here. And in return, I insult their chef. Or, when they finally hand me a bill, I don't just refuse to pay, I start yelling curses at them. Just think about it. Yet nobody's even given you a bill. Only handouts. You'd better watch yourself. Alright, my friends, let me raise a toast to Trump and his fight against the Soviets. And who are the Soviets? Just like Ukrainians, they scrape by on paltry wages, just enough for sustenance, paid to rot in poverty. But maybe you ought to try earning your keep. Maybe you can raise more. Take a risk, behave yourself, strike fair deals, offer up some of those rare minerals of yours. Let's be honest, you'd don't have enough minerals to foot the bill. This is charity, Trump's little invention. It's a sham. See, he just cooked up an excuse to help you. Well, never mind. There's plenty more troubles that lie ahead. Our lot is palavering Trump, but that won't last. The moment they try to slick off, he'll give them a fillip. But we'll save that for another video. Cheers! Here's to the free market, real competition, capitalism, and my lodestar Trump. Stay sharp.